Hey there, welcome to Light Guided, formerly Lemurian Collective. I'm Lisa Kay, an energy intuitive and psychic medium. Happy to be with you today. I'm going to go ahead and look at the energies for the month of May around career. And every month I look at the energies around career, love, money, and spiritual growth. So feel free to check out all the videos for the month of May. Meanwhile, let's go ahead and get started, and let's take a look at the overarching energy related to money for the month of May. Stuck in the mud. Listening. I love how these are both elephants. We need wisdom when navigating financial circumstances. We need stability right now. Follow the leader. Interesting. And balancing act. So the first message I get really strongly here is about, our instinct when things are unpredictable or uncertain is to try to take control. It's to try to mitigate risks, take control, take charge, manage. And what I'm getting here is like, it's really finding the balance between managing your finances, managing the money, and not getting so wrapped up in, being fearful about that you end up, kind of hurting yourself in the end inadvertently by getting stuck. So there's definitely a strong message here about not getting too wrapped up in fear, okay? Yeah. This is also a message for some of you. I see for some of you, like, you might be interested in, like, now this could be either podcasts, like generally listening to people who are experts in finance, expert in money, expert in things like that. It could also be that you're listening to a lot of the news about the stock market, about, be careful how you invest, like all the different things. So two messages. One, if you're listening to podcasts that are more about informing you in general about how to navigate difficult times or how to navigate managing your money right now, I feel like for most of you, that's a positive way of kind of finding that balance, because you're informing yourself, you're getting information that's actually helping you to think through and navigate how you want to deal with your finances in the month of May, versus if you're exposing yourself to a lot of just mainstream media, mainstream news, you may end up more in this energy of feeling kind of stuck and fearful and unsure how to move forward. So you might find some momentum or some clarity and also a bit of freedom from the fear when you move into a place where you're able to gain information from people who are more experts in the field and not just listening to mainstream news. So that seems pretty clear here. So let's see. Some of you might have the instinct to, it kind of goes both ways again, depending on how this lands for you, or, all of who's listening. But for some of you, you may put a lot of faith. If you happen to have, for example, if you happen to have a 401k and you have maybe a company that you work with who manages that for you through your employer or what have you, you may be more inclined to simply just trust that they're going to guide you and tell you the right information. And you may be in a situation of kind of like hands off, where you just let it ride through this turbulent time. For others of you, it's going to be the opposite energy, where it's kind of split here in both ways, right? For others of you, it might be an opposite energy where you kind of panic a little bit and you start looking for people to tell you how to manage your money, but you do that in a way out of fear. And when you're coming at it from this energy of fear, you might not be making the best choices in terms of whether you keep your money in a certain stock or whether you move your money or whether you cash out or any of those kinds of decisions that you might be dealing with right now or thinking about right now. So I feel like this is on both sides of this. It feels like just a little bit of mindfulness, about what kind of information you're taking in that's influencing your actions, and then B, just where you're looking for information or where you're looking for specific guidance outside of news and podcasts, but more in the way of like professional level guidance, like an accountant or a financial advisor or things like that. Let's look at some of the risks and barriers related to finances and get a little more detail there. Risks and barriers related to finances in the month of May. Consciousness of lack, that's a big one, right? Not falling into the trap of, look at dark thoughts, lack of consciousness of lack, and then true love. We'll look at that and see what's coming out there. But barriers and risks, I think the biggest risk right now for most of you anyway is really related to how you're thinking about things and not falling into the trap of, low consciousness about it, like, such as fear, being fearful and fear-based about it. And you can even see actually in this image, this is, there's like little gold coins here. Let me see if I can discern anything else from this. For some of you, this brings up in general, there's also a deeper layer here for some of you where it brings up fearfulness about insecurities. So for example, let's say you're a person who, grew up, maybe you didn't have a lot of resources growing up and maybe you worked really hard to cultivate resources for yourself and now you have some. Even if it's not a lot, you have some. And everything that's happening in the world right now in particular has kind of pushed you into this state of fear about it's going to be just like it was when I struggled so much. And that's going to be a very difficult energy when it comes to navigating your finances, because if you're stuck or trapped in that energy of fear, it's going to be very hard to follow your intuition. It's going to be very hard to have clarity about, what steps are going to really support you moving forward. And you might end up inadvertently making some choices that don't support you moving forward. Yeah, and in this energy, I'm also seeing like there's a risk of getting too apathetic. So it's kind of, you might get too locked in fear, or the opposite where you just become apathetic and you just kind of, forget it. I don't need to do anything, whatever. I just can't even deal with this. And what I'm really seeing here is that spirit, first of all, I believe anyway, money is just an energy, right? We look at the energy of money because it's also part of the way we survive in the human space, and to varying degrees, surviving, thriving, beyond, exceeding our wildest expectations in terms of those resources. There's a whole range, a spectrum of how we utilize that energy. And what I get mostly for this month of May is that Spirit wants us to remember, first of all, that abundance is an energy and we are part of that. And we are, it's okay to have abundance. It's okay to be in the flow of our relationship with money, with resources. And that's kind of what, Spirit wants from us. Spirit wants us to make good decisions and have, clear intentionality with how we're navigating our relationship with finances, and the energy there. So Spirit wants for us to be in connection with abundance. And it looks like this month in particular, there's a lot more anxiety than in past months around finances and navigating money and kind of the, what's coming up for people around money. A lot of fear and anxiety right now. One thing, there's an energy here about, you might you might get into conversations with friends or family about what's happening in the world, and it could serve one way or the other, depending on your group of friends and the people you're around and their level of consciousness. But it could either result in more fear, or opposite, it could result in, hey, don't worry about it. But I'm also seeing this other energy here for some of you. You might actually start to tap into a whole other layer of this energy of abundance and start to get really innovative. You might actually start to create something out of the current circumstance. And I feel like it's really supported spiritually. If that energy resonates for you, it's supported very spiritually and energetically. Even if it doesn't look like it on the surface, like this is a time for innovation. It's a time for innovation and a time for thinking outside the box, because the paradigms around us are crumbling. And in fact, the reading I just did, like spiritual growth, talked about this inner paradigm shift. Well, we're also in an external paradigm shift. Everything around us is shifting. Everything that we've come to know as the status quo is changing, right? And so those are the times when our intuition could be at its most heightened, when we are most able to receive messages from spirit that nudge us to say, hey, do this thing, do it a little differently. So for some of you, this could be not as formal as starting a business, but creating some agreements with people that you know. Maybe you go in on, buying land together or sharing your resources together in a way that creates more abundance for everyone. Seeing that energy here very strongly. For others of you, there's just a message here about kind of an acknowledgement more than anything about how, again, when we relate to money as part of our survival. And so when that happens, if we have a lot of trauma, particularly survival trauma, whether it's money related or not, it can start to bring up a lot of layers of our own trauma. Excuse me. So I'm seeing some of that energy coming up for some of you as well. Like it starts to feel very fragmented. You get very frazzled, very fragmented in that energy. Let's see here. Let me look at the energy and see what more we want to know about this. Yeah, again, I feel like this is kind of the overarching message of this reading, is finding that middle ground, like finding a place where you can tune into the energy of abundance for yourself, for your own well-being, and making good choices with how you're managing your resources, right? Not being too restrictive, but not being too impulsive either. Finding that really good in between, that really good balance. Looks like for some of you, there may be some things in the month of May related to, I'm seeing like contracts. This is related to money. So this could be one of a couple of things, but it could be, for example, like signing a new lease, buying a new car, probably not buying a new car, but more like signing a lease, like, contracts, things that commit you to a certain amount of money per month. It could be subscriptions, things like that. Overall, I'm seeing the energy there as being pretty positive. There's like, it's very intentional. It's generally a very positive thing. Interesting. We have this energy of loving man. Let's see if I can get a little bit more info there. This is feeling to me like a message from spirit, as just a reminder of like remembering that you have a lot of blessings in your life. Even if you're struggling financially, like try to be, looking at and noticing the blessings of your life. Not not necessarily as a comparison to other people, but, you know, recognizing in order to be in alignment with abundance and to tune into that, like finding that gratitude within your own experience of like, well, I may not have $1 million. I'm just throwing it out there, but like, I may not have $1 million, but hey, I have $100 and that's better than the guy down the street who has $20, something like that. And again, not as a way of comparing, but more as a way of being in the energy of gratitude and appreciation for what you already do have. That feels like an important message here for some of you as well. And they're also giving me this impression like, the more you're connected, the more you can remember to be in connection to that energy, like it kind of grows. It creates a sense of ease in your life. Like you don't have to worry as much. So I think, you know, Spirit just wants us not to be in a state of worry. I think that's my guess. There's something more here about these contracts. Let's see. Commitment, yeah, contracts. What more do you want us to know about that? Yeah, I think there's a little bit of a message here, a repeat of all the energy that's been coming forward. But you know, in this contract, if this resonates for you and you happen to be signing a new lease, or you know, whether that's maybe you're leasing a vehicle, I don't know, but it's something about a reoccurring charge, okay? Whether that's a, excuse me, whether that's a living space or something else, it feels like it's pretty stable overall. And part of the decision is around creating stability for yourself. So if you're having any qualms about, you know, about this, I don't really sense that, but if you're having any qualms about it, this just feels like a stabilizing force. And maybe it's the energy of just as an affirmation for some of you, like it's okay to create this stabilizing force. And for some of you, for example, you might be worried about signing a 12-month lease if you're not sure if you're going to get a job or if you're going to have income or something to that effect. But overall, this feels stabilizing, and it feels like a path that's going to be pretty much supporting you. Yeah. And then Spirit's kind of teasing, you know, money as an energy is always a teacher for us. You know, the ebb and flow of the resources is always a teacher. So let me just see if there's any final messages here. Final messages around money for the month of May. Healing, purification. I shuffled these, I swear I did. Leadership. Yeah, I feel like the overarching message here is, you know, again, not allowing external factors to cause you to react too strongly one way or the other, but to find within all of the energy your own inner stability and your own inner trust, so that you're making decisions about your finances from a positive place, from a non-fear-based place. And in that, you have this amazing opportunity to create something new. So I feel like that's an important energy that's coming forward. You know, that innovation energy, finding new ways to do things. Like, we don't have to live in the status quo. I feel like that energy did come up. We don't have to be in the status quo. We don't have to keep doing it the same way just because that's the way it's always been done, right? We get to create. We are creative beings. So maybe now is the time to start creating. And maybe in the energy of creating, it helps you to soothe or calm any fears you might have about your current finances or money matters. So anyway, I hope there's something in this reading that resonates for you and that you found helpful. I wish you a wonderful month of May, and I'll see you soon. Take good care.